Hello wrestling fans, the Wrestling Wizard here and welcome to another video. And in this video we're going to look at 5 wrestlers, well technically 7 because 2 are part of a package deal if you like, that could return to WWE under the guidance of the man of the moment, the legend himself, Triple H. I'm not going to call him Paul Levesque, it just seems a bit weird. It feels a bit weird at this moment to call him that. I've known him Triple H all these years, one of my favourite wrestlers of all time, so Triple H it is. Now before we get into the video, as always, be really appreciative if you can like the video, share the video, or even better, subscribe. So, what do you think about the current product at the moment under the guidance of Triple H? Do you think he's doing a good job? I personally think he's doing an amazing job. We seem to have moved away from the what's best for business era to the what's best for the wrestlers, getting to know the wrestlers and where they want to move and progress with their careers on a personal level. And behind the scenes, apparently Triple H has really been pushing that, which is really important. I don't think the dinosaur Vince McMahon actually had a clue, to be honest with you. I mean, look at some of the bookings. Look at Karrion Kross and his debut on the main roster. Hopefully things will be different second time round. And more importantly, the fans. We're enjoying the product. We're actually seeing long-term storyline arcs being built, investment in the women's division. The commentators having freedom on the microphone, which is a breath of fresh air. We're seeing cliffhangers. You think what we saw with Dexter Lumis. What on earth was going on backstage? It makes you want to tune in next week and weeks after that. We're seeing matches advertised ahead of schedule. And there's actually some planning. You can bet your bottom dollar that Triple H is planning for WrestleMania next year already. It's not just this last minute ripping up the script that Vince McMahon used to do. So that begs the question. Who could potentially come back? Now I've shortened this down to 5, really 7. You'll find out why in a moment. And I'm probably going to do some more of these type of videos. So if there's any wrestlers you want to see back, we can add those onto separate videos if you like. And also going to go through a few wish list wrestlers at the end. So the first wrestler I can see coming back, I can positively see him coming back, is Mr. Wrestling himself, Johnny Gargano. It makes sense. You've got the whole connection with DIY, with Ciampa on the Raw brand. The Way, that amazing faction that we saw in NXT, of course you had Candice LeRae, which is why I've said 7, because if Johnny Gargano comes back, you can bet your bottom dollar that Candice LeRae is going to return somewhere down the line. Why not? When you talk about Candice LeRae, you can't not talk about Indy Hartwell. We know she's still under contract in WWE and NXT, so you can move her onto the main roster, and those two could tag up as a tag team if you're going to invest in the women's division. Dexter Lumis, remains to be seen what they do with him, but he's seemingly in WWE and re-signed with WWE. And of course, Austin Theory. It'd be really interesting to see the interaction between Gargano and Theory now that Theory's moved quite high up in the hierarchy of WWE with the Money in the Bank briefcase. Johnny always said one day he would get a bout. Johnny Gargano is going to put on 5-star matches. He's going to be a mainstay player on the main roster. With Triple H in charge, you know he's going to be booked properly and he's going to put on those 5-star matches. And I always think back to that Andrade match that he had at NXT TakeOver in Philadelphia. It literally got rated 5-star by Dave Meltzer. First time an NXT match had been rated 5-star. So leave it there. Gargano is money, absolute money. Number 4, Braun Strowman. And I think it's just as simple as he's a monster among men. Yeah, he's one of those like Vince type guys. Seemingly was supposed to be a Vince type guy, you know, just one of those muscle heads that fits the bill in WWE, has a time and place. You can push him into the upper card when you need to, have him in the upper mid card for most of the time. He's going to be a merchandise mover. He's going to be a fan favorite amongst a lot of the younger generation as well. They like that type of wrestler. And then you've got a genuine contender for Omos, and I'd actually pay money to see Omos versus Strowman. I think that would be a good match. Yes, it's not going to be the top match on the card, but it's just intriguing, isn't it? You know, you're probably going to see a wrestling ring break like back in the day with Lesnar and Big Show, and it's just genuinely exciting. And I think I was quite surprised when he went, actually. I thought he was going to be a WWE lifer. Of course, there's always that interaction potentially with a certain suit you-know-who, which we'll get onto in a moment. Braun Strowman, I'd be all up for it. Makes sense. Next one. This is a bit of a out there one. Kairi Sane. Now Kairi Sane went on her own terms. She left WWE really for personal reasons. There's no bad blood between her and WWE in the company, but if WWE and Triple H are pushing the women's division, especially the women's tag team division, you can see Kairi Sane coming back, tagging alongside the popular Asuka. Those two were a red hot tag team. Sane is a former NXT Women's Champion, so she can handle herself in the ring, and a former WWE Tag Team Women's Champion alongside, of course, Asuka. It would be a popular choice. She's really popular amongst the fans. It kind of makes a lot of sense. Next one, I think this is a pretty obvious one, and we're going to see this, and this is why it was part of a package deal. Sasha Banks and Naomi. This makes sense if Triple H is investing in the women's division, bringing back Sasha Banks and Naomi. It makes a lot of sense. The whole reason those two walked away, left the belts on the desk, parted ways seemingly for the short term with WWE was because of Vince McMahon himself and the creative bookings. And you can understand now, and it is frustrating to look at the product now in WWE and say, how different would it have been the last 4 years if someone like Triple H was in charge then? It is frustrating, we've got to let that go, but for Sasha Banks to come back, I think it makes sense to just, to be honest with you, bring her back as a heel. You know, play to the storyline. You know, if she's going to get a mixed reaction, I always felt that Sasha Banks was better as a heel anyway, and Naomi, so why not? Of course, we might not see Naomi, we might see Sasha come back, but the two together, surely that's going to be the package deal, right? And finally, that brings us on to Fandango. I'm only joking. Bray Wyatt, of course. Bray Wyatt. I mean, this has been a hot topic on this channel. It's taken a lot of criticism on this channel. A lot of people saying, you know, oh, he's never ever going to come back. None of us have ever said on this channel that Bray Wyatt is going to come back. We speculated, it's a theory, there's genuine reasons why now, even more so now that he would come back under the guidance of Triple H. Seemingly, he had creative issues with WWE, potentially with Vince. We don't know the full ins and outs. Triple H giving Bray Wyatt, a character like Bray Wyatt, creative freedom would be absolute fire in WWE. There was a really interesting report I saw this morning, read this morning, on time of recording this video, from Fightful Select, and I can't wait to see more details there, but they were basically saying that the higher-ups in WWE are quite confident that they can get Bray Wyatt back in WWE, and that is big news. So we could potentially have another update video coming up on that following very, very soon, within the next day or couple of days. So that's really exciting. And why, if you're WWE, would you not bring him back? He's a merchandise mover, he's massively over, and just think of all the matchups, the fresh matchups that you could have. I mean, imagine Karrion Kross versus Bray Wyatt, or even the Fiend alter ego. Like, that would be absolute fire. I'd like to see some sort of Dexter Lumis association, maybe with the Fiend in a weird warped way. That would be kind of cool. Of course, Demon Finn versus the Fiend. We could go on and on and on. There's loads of reasons. I was very, very disappointed when I saw those teaser video packages. Just ultimately led to Edge. But I do also believe that there were changes made last minute. I'm going to have a separate video coming up on that specifically. But Bray Wyatt, you cannot write that off. So those are my top 5, if you like, at the moment that are likely to happen. I might do another video on some other potential superstars that could come back. Of course, it goes without saying there's loads of fantasy signings that I would love to see come to WWE. Kenny Omega, just imagine that. Him and Roman Reigns, absolute 5-star. Will Ospreay in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Wow, I know he's under contract there for a few more years, but imagine signing that kid. Go check him out if you haven't seen him before. He's absolute fire. Obviously, Casey Lee, aka Peyton Royce, former member, of course, of the Iconics alongside Billie Kay, is now pregnant. So she's expecting a child alongside Sean Spears. But in the future, re-signing the Iconics, if you're going to bring in some fresh over blood into the women's division. The Iconics were already massively over before they got released in WWE, so that kind of makes sense to bring them back down the line. And there's all sorts. You could go on and on. You're not going to see the likes of Adam Cole anytime soon, I'm afraid. 2027 is when his contract expires, but there are potential re-signings we could see. Andrade's got another couple of years in AEW, so potentially you could see him coming back, and the reasons for that, obviously he's married to Charlotte Flair, so travel arrangements and life in general, it makes it easier if you're part of the same company. I think he could be booked really well under Triple H. He was pushed really well in NXT. Keith Lee, I don't see him coming back to WWE. They're booking him fairly well in AEW. You've got Busted Pac, aka Neville. You know, these are wrestlers maybe are more on my wish list, but I'd love to see them utilised properly in WWE and booked as absolute weapons. But for the foreseeable future, I don't see too many transitions from AEW back to WWE. I think it's going to be superstars that weren't utilised properly, maybe released from WWE, coming back. But what do you think of the list? Be really interested to get your thoughts and opinions. As always, get down in the comments section, share your thoughts. Who do you want to see back? Who do you think is legitimately going to come back? I always like to hear your opinions. Thank you so much. As always, be really appreciative if you could like the video, share the video, subscribe if you're new, and we'll see you in another video.